As part of the USC Dornsife LA Times poll, we asked about 1,500 Californians California voters, what they think about terrorism. And we asked questions that looked at their overall view of the war and how President Obama has been handling it, and various aspects of the war on terrorism and whether they are working or not.
And the results 10 years after those terrorist attacks show that most Californians have moved on. Most Californians think that the United States has won the war on terror. Most Californians no longer worry about the potential of a terrorist attack on them or on their children.
Only about 11% of California voters feel very worried, very concerned about a terrorist attack, and 12% feel less secure than after the 9/11 terrorist attacks. And that probably has a lot to do with the fact that we're a long way from New York, we're a long way from Washington, largely considered the two main areas that terrorists would be interested in.
That said, we did see somewhat of a gender gap on this question. Male respondents, California men, tended to be much more positive about the U.S. prospects and the U.S. progress in the war on terror. Women in California were much more dubious and much more likely to say that the U.S. was not winning that war. Men in California were much more likely to say that they did not feel threatened by the potential for another terrorist attack. Women were much more likely to say that that was something that still concerned them.
The poll also asked about California voters' approval of how Obama has handled a number of issues. And generally, Californians are not very happy with the president's handling of a whole range of issues, from the economy to healthcare, but they are quite happy with how he's handled terrorism, a much higher level of comfort with his role in handling terrorism.
Foreign policy and national security, which were judged to be a potential weakness for a relatively inexperienced presidential candidate in 2008, now ironically looks like they've become Barack Obama's greatest political strengths.
The only very interesting difference in terms of the responses to these questions about 9/11 between Latinos and white Californians has to do with the question about whether or not post 9/11 there's been some sort of fundamental change in the country. There you find that Latinos are much more fall into the camp that they think that there's been a fundamental change in the country post 9/11.
1/3 of our respondents, a significant plurality, felt that the government was going too far in terms of encroaching on civil liberties. It's not a conclusive number, but it's worth noting. Interesting to me also is the question that we asked about air travel. We asked all Californians, but particularly air travelers, if they thought that the restrictions and the inherent inconveniences that now come with air travel as a result of the September 11 attacks were tolerable or not.
About half of Californians are satisfied with the level of airport security, and about half are satisfied with what we're doing right now to combat terrorism and don't see a need to do more. So there is a sense that a consensus is developing that we're doing the right amount on terrorism.